Let me tell you a story about Grace. A number of years ago, my family decided to spend a weekend out at the Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, one of our favorite places in Colorado. And, after a long day of us playing in the sand, on the dunes, taking pictures, hiking, flying kites, hanging out in the river, it was getting a little late, so we decided to go to the next town over so we could have dinner. There was a restaurant there that we've always talked about trying, so we went out and we had dinner. After dinner, we all got into my wife's car. It was about a 45 mile drive back to our hotel. My wife settled in the passenger seat. My son, who was about 3 at the time, was in his little car seat in the back seat of the car. I was driving. Drove out of town, a little ways out of town. The wide open roads. No one out there, so I set my cruise control on the car at a comfortable speed. It was a little bit over the speed limit, but there was no one out there, right? Not hurting anything. A little ways into the trip, probably about 15 miles or so from our hotel, I zoomed up on another car driving in front of us, and I was a little annoyed. He was going the speed limit, and I would have to slow down for him. But instead of slowing down, I decided to mash on the gas pedal. There was nobody on the road, so I went around him, overtook him, and kept going. At the time, I was driving a little old minivan, and driving my wife's car, where when I hit the gas, the car responded, was a lot of fun. So I kept my speed up. About a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles away from where I sped up to to overtake the car, I see a sign that reduced the speed limit down to 45 miles an hour. Of course, I wanted to comply, I guess, and so I let off the foot off the gas and started letting the car coast down towards the 45 mile per hour spot. Almost immediately after I passed that sign, though, I saw flashing red lights in my rearview mirror. As I was pulling off to the side of the road, I looked down at my speedometer and I see the needle still at 84 miles an hour, and I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I pull over. As the police officer was walking towards my car, I couldn't think of any good reason or any excuse as to why I was driving that fast. He comes up to the window, takes a look into the car. He sees the kid sleeping in the back. My wife was just waking up from her nap. And he says, "Sir, were you wearing your seatbelt?" That took me off guard. I was like, "Sure, absolutely. I was wearing a seatbelt, see?" And I showed him. And he says, "Well, that's too bad. Because if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, I would have to give you a ticket for that instead of giving you a ticket for what I clocked you at, because it would be a really big ticket and I would have to take that car away from you." I immediately reached over, undid my seatbelt, and said, "I'm so sorry, officer. I completely forgot my seatbelt on." He smiles and walks back to his car. A couple minutes later, he comes back and hands me a ticket and says, "Well, you better wear your seatbelt next time." And as he walks away, he smiles and says, "By the way, slow down." I couldn't believe it. He had given me a ticket for a seatbelt violation and not the ticket that I knew I deserved. Grace is a really wonderful thing, isn't it? In Romans, Paul says, Romans 3, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by His grace through the redemption that came by Jesus Christ." As Paul points out, we're all guilty. We've all sinned. We've all fallen short. But by the grace of Jesus Christ, we have been redeemed. We didn't have to do anything to earn it. In fact, later in the book, Paul says, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. We're all in this thing called life together, right? We love community. We love each other. We drive each other nuts. We agree with each other. We rejoice with each other. We disagree with each other. We cause pain. We have been hurt by each other. As we listen to the song "God with Us" by Mercy Me, I pray that we thank God for the grace He has shown us, but not only to pray that we thank God for that grace, but that we pray that God gives us the courage to show grace to each other. I pray that we get the courage to forgive people that have hurt us, to learn from people we disagree with, to reach out to people that have hurt us. I pray that we can be God's grace to everyone around us.
Who are we that you would be mindful of us? What do you see? It's worth looking our way. We are free in ways that we never should be. Sweet release from the grips of these chains. Like hinges straining from the weight, my heart no longer can keep from singing. All that is within me cries, for you alone be glorified. Emmanuel, God with us. My heart sings a brand new song. The debt is paid, these chains are gone. Emmanuel, God with us. Don't you know our hearts don't deserve your glory? Still you show a love we cannot afford. Like hinges straining from the weight, my heart no longer can keep from singing. All that is within me cries, for you alone be glorified. Emmanuel, God with us. My heart sings a brand new song. The debt is paid, these chains are gone. Emmanuel, God with us. Such a tiny offering compared to Calvary. Nevertheless, we lay it at your feet. Such a tiny offering compared to Calvary. Nevertheless, we lay it at your feet. made these chains.